I'm Liz Faublis, and this is Currents. The Fortnight for Freedom is in full swing. We'll see what's happening around the Brooklyn Diocese.
We believe in these things that God has a law, one man, one woman, that we're pro-life, and we don't want that being taken away from us.
And hear more about it from Bishop DiMarzio.
For the 2 weeks between the Feast of St. Thomas More and July the 4th, that we're setting apart to concentrate on the issue of religious freedom in our country and the threats to it, basically, prompted by this whole HHS mandate.
Plus, hitting the greens for a worthy cause.
CYO reaches out to the young people, keeps them off the streets, it teaches them, teamwork, team spirit, that, we're not in this alone. And we have to work with people, we have to cooperate with people, and when we do that, it's a win-win situation.
Good evening, and thank you for joining us. The church hit the ground running on day one of the Fortnight for Freedom. The U.S. Bishops' Conference first announced the 2-week period of prayer and action for religious freedom back in April. Every U.S. diocese is taking part. Arguably, the biggest event of yesterday was Mass at the Basilica of the National Shrine of the Assumption in Baltimore, celebrated by Archbishop William Lori. In his homily, Archbishop Lori, who chairs the U.S. Bishops' Ad Hoc Committee on Religious Liberty, talked about the issue at the center of it all, the Health and Human Services contraception mandate.
In the HHS mandate, the federal government now defines a church as a body which hires mostly its own members and serves mostly its own members and exists primarily to advance its own teachings. In other words, so long as the church confines itself to the sacristy, then it is exempt from having to fund and facilitate in its insurance plans government-mandated services, contrary to its teachings. But if a church steps beyond the narrow confines of this definition by hiring people of other faiths and by serving the common good, then the government is telling us that such institutions are not religious enough, that they do not deserve an exemption from funding and facilitating those things which violate the very teachings which inspired churches to establish their institutions in the first place.
Well, the mandate would force most religious organizations to violate their consciences by covering contraception, sterilization, and abortion-inducing drugs in their employee health plans. Critics, including the bishops, say an exemption for religious organizations is too narrow. Close to home, people across the Diocese of Brooklyn are moving full steam ahead with the Fortnight. Thursday night, American Martyrs Church in Bayside, Queens hosted an evening of prayer along with speakers who talked about the need for action.
This great land will always be one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I don't think that anyone today could argue that Catholics have not been good Americans.
We're at American Martyrs Church in Bayside, New York, and we are kicking off the Bishop's call to a Fortnight of Freedom by celebrating a holy hour and making people aware of the issue that is facing us as Catholics in the United States, which is the Health and Human Services mandate that we cover, that we provide services which are opposed to our moral teachings.
Religious freedom is that the government can't say to us what we should do or what we shouldn't do, what we should believe in, what we shouldn't believe in. That America was founded on the principles of freedom for everyone.
It's as if it's slowly being taken away from us. To have religious liberty is such a blessing. And if you know religious liberty, it also means the separation of church from state. We believe in these things that God has a law, one man, one woman, that we're pro-life, and we don't want that being taken away from us. We don't want our teaching to change just because of the world that we live in.
Catholics have shed their blood along with their brothers and sisters of other faiths. And yet today we find ourselves in a position where our religious liberties, the liberties that Catholic Americans fought to preserve, our religious liberties are being threatened.
My unit, the Catholic War Veterans of America, are obviously for this, type of rally, and to let the world know that, what we stood for is, like the girl talked about, religious freedom. It's like the song says, you don't know what you've lost until you've lost it.
We need to talk to our friends, our neighbors, our children, and let them know what is happening. We need to engage them. We need to make sure that every one of us are not only registered to vote, but actively vote.
What we're asking people to do throughout the diocese are to contact the Catholic Citizens Committee. We have sent out flyers and posters to every single church in the diocese, requesting that people call to learn how they can run voter registration drives at their church. We've asked pastors to do so we've asked them to talk to their pastors and work with them to be able to do that.
The issue that we're here this evening to consider and to pray about and to talk about is whether the government has a right to force Catholic institutions to provide such services. That is the issue.
And elsewhere in the Brooklyn Diocese, Mass is being celebrated on Friday night, day 2 of the Fortnight for Freedom at the Church of St. Joseph in Prospect Heights. An all-night vigil will follow. We will have a complete report on that on Monday's show, but stay tuned. More of the day's headlines next. Welcome back to Currents. I'm Liz Faubles. Breaking news this afternoon, a mixed verdict in Philadelphia. A jury has convicted Monsignor William J. Lynn, former Secretary of the Clergy in the Archdiocese, of child endangerment, but acquitted him of 2 other charges, including conspiracy, in a sex abuse case that has drawn national attention. This marks the first time a Roman Catholic official has been found guilty of covering up sexual abuses. Monsignor Lynn was charged with allowing a known pedophile priest to continue ministering to youth, resulting in an assault on a 10-year-old boy. Monsignor Lynn himself was not charged with any acts of sexual abuse. Monsignor Lynn's lawyers plan to appeal. We will have more on this story on Monday. Also in Philadelphia, Archbishop Charles Chaput has announced a major reorganization effort, and it includes layoffs. The Archbishop says he must cut about 40 archdiocesan jobs. Administrative positions that support evangelization and youth ministry will be particularly affected. Now, also on the chopping block, the Catholic Standard and Times, which is the 117-year-old archdiocesan newspaper. Other offices will either be combined or eliminated altogether. Staff will be streamlined at various offices. Archbishop Chaput said the reason for the administrative changes was primarily economic. Despite budget and staffing adjustments, the Archdiocese still faces a budget deficit of more than $5 million for the 2013 fiscal year. The Archbishop said not to mention the more than $11 million in legal fees amassed over the past year. And it's not just in Philly. In Omaha, Archbishop George Lucas approved proposals for 8 parish mergers, 3 elementary school closings, and a plan to create a group consisting of 5 elementary schools. During a news conference at the Cathedral Cultural Center at St. Cecilia Cathedral in Omaha, the Archbishop said that the plan, called Promise 2020, will ensure that Catholic parishes and schools will remain part of the heart of Omaha for many years to come. Changes were triggered by changes in population and declining school enrollments, aging facilities, and a projected drop in the number of priests. Elsewhere, the Vatican's initial calendar of events for the Year of Faith has been unveiled, and it looks like we are in for a spectacular celebration.
The Vatican has presented its plans for one of its most important events of 2012, It deals with the Year of Faith, which begins on October 11th and ends on November 23rd of 2013. October also marks the beginning of the Synod for the New Evangelization and the canonization of 7 new saints. Throughout the 13 months of the Year of Faith, events will involve every aspect of the Church, from the young people receiving confirmation to catechists, seminarians, and devoted Marians. It's hard to choose what will be the most important event of this year, because there are many events that will be very important, because they touch different aspects of faith and different categories of people. To order the new evangelization, the Congregation for Divine Worship approved a special Mass, but as of now it's only in Latin and Italian. But by October, translations will be available in English, Spanish, and German. This will be the logo for the Year of Faith and its website. The image will be this icon of the Christ of Cefalù, and the prayer will be the Lord's Creed. It is a Christ known throughout the world, one of the most beautiful representations. It is a mosaic dating from the 12th century. We chose it as a symbol of faith because it is the expression of unity of all believers. There will also be other important anniversaries during the Year of Faith, such as the 50-year mark since the opening of Vatican II and the 20-year anniversary of the Catechism published by the Catholic Church. An exhibition is also scheduled to take place at Castel San Angelo and a big concert in St. Peter's Square. These series of events are meant to bring the new evangelization in the Year of Faith to every corner of the world.
And the cultural events planned do include a huge concert in St. Peter's Square on June 22nd, 2013, which will likely have at least 2 orchestras and 3 choirs. Well, file this under something you may not expect to hear: the United States Conference of Catholic Bishops texting in the name of liberty. You bet. The U.S. CCB has launched a text message campaign to provide a new way for people to join its national campaign for religious freedom. Archbishop William Lori of Baltimore, the chairman of the Bishops' Ad Hoc Committee for Religious Liberty, encouraged all supporters around the country to text freedom for English or libertad for Spanish to 377-377 to join the movement, saying, quote, "Across America, our right to live out our faith is being threatened, from Washington's forcing Catholic institutions to provide services that contradict their beliefs, to state governments prohibiting religious charities from serving the most vulnerable." Meanwhile, in Indonesia, 20 churches have been closed and face possible demolition, including one built in 1932. Officials cite a 2006 regulation which requires the approval of 60 local non-Christians before construction can start. Muslims in the area have been ordered by local leaders not to approve the plan, according to an Indonesian press. Andrew Johnston of Christian Solidarity Worldwide calls the closure an illustration of, quote, "the rising religious intolerance in Indonesia." Well, lions, leopards, and bears, oh my, the Old Testament comes to life at an Italian zoo. Rome Reports has more on that.
Do you know what leopards, baboons, and lions have in common? Well, they're all animals cited in the Old Testament, something that Rome Zoo is sharing now with its visitors. The Biopark Foundation has created a new tour that follows the animals of the Bibles, everything from wolves, hippos, storks, bears, and lions.
It is the sacred text of our culture that is shared in the Jewish and Christian religion. We wanted to show the relationship between nature and spirituality with a route from different verses of the Bible shown by the animals in our zoo.
Among other things, this zoo tries to teach about environmental education in society and caring for endangered animals or those that were illegally smuggled. So after visiting the Biblical Zoo in Jerusalem, organizers decided to add a historical site here in Rome.
In 20 days, we have created this route. Rome's Jewish community has helped us with suggestions and offering texts from the Bible. We then did graphic design for the information panels.
Depending on the animals, each area has a sign like this one that shows a biblical quotation and a scientific explanation on the habits and characteristics of each species. The exhibit is a fun way to bring nature and religion to the public. It also brings together some diverse animals that surely Noah himself would have enjoyed.
Stay tuned. More currents after the break. Coming up, with the Fortnight for Freedom underway, we'll go into the deep to talk about why it's so important.
We hire non-Catholics and we serve non-Catholics, therefore we're not Catholic enough to have a religious exemption to something we find abhorrent. So this is the problem. The government is deciding, what's religious and what's not.
Welcome back. The contraception mandate has people of faith concerned for a number of reasons. There's the obvious, the federal government forcing most religious organizations to violate their consciences by providing their employees with coverage for contraception, sterilization, and abortion-inducing drugs. There's also the religious exemption to the mandate, whereby the government decides who is, quote, religious enough to qualify for it. Well, for more on all of this, the Fortnight for Freedom to stand up for religious liberty and why people need to get involved, our news director, Ed Wilkinson, spoke with Bishop DiMarzio for this week's Into the Deep.
Bishop, nice to see you again.
Okay, good to be back.
The U.S. bishops have asked for a fortnight for freedom. This is a chance to pray for religious liberty, which they say is in trouble these days because of some of the, the healthcare reform bill. What does that term, fortnight for freedom, mean?
It sounds like it comes out of Shakespeare, doesn't it? It's an English term, it means 2 weeks. And it's really the 2 weeks between the feast of St. Thomas More and July the 4th that we're setting apart to concentrate on the issue of religious freedom in our country and the threats to it, basically, prompted by this whole HHS mandate that we must provide sterilization, contraceptives, and abortifacient pills to employees that are part of the Catholic system. And worse yet is that they're defining what Catholic means. Just the other night, we had our Catholic Charities dinner, and I explained to the people there that Catholic Charities would not be exempt because we hire non-Catholics and we serve non-Catholics. Therefore, we're not Catholic enough to have a religious exemption to something we find abhorrent. So this is the problem. The religious freedom is being whittled away, and the government is deciding, what's religious and what's not. The response of the government is, well, you have to be under some scrutiny. Well, that's true, but I think you have also the right under the Constitution to define your own religious stance, and that the right of conscience should not be arbitrarily taken away by the government.
Right. And you mentioned St. Thomas More. He would be a pretty good patron for this cause.
Well, he would be. I mean, he stood up against the state and lost his head for it, and he was one of the martyr saints of history. And after the Reformation in England, a great jurist, a great theologian, and a great martyr. So he's somebody we look to emulate.
Now I know there's going to be a holy hour at the St. Joseph's Church on Pacific Street. That's one of the activities.
Not just a holy hour, it's going to be a vigil all night from 8 o'clock at night to 7 o'clock in the morning, where various movements within the church will be taking the responsibility for the holy hours.
Okay.
That will happen an hour at a time.
I know there was a package of information that was distributed to all parishes and all pastors. What are you asking parishes and pastors to do during this
Well,
fortnight?
first to publicize it. We want the pastors to make pulpit announcements and let people know that there is a fortnight of freedom. We also are looking to ring our bells, but one of the days ring the bells for freedom, religious freedom, and all the churches at one time were doing that, so we'll get some attention, let people know why we're ringing the bells. We'll also have a group of young people that are willing to go to parishes and speak, either at the end of Mass or at particular other gatherings about what the issue is, what religious freedom issue is haunting us today. We're looking also to do voter registration drives in any parishes that want to do that. We recognize that many of our Catholic people have kind of opted out of the system. They don't vote anymore. So we're leaving it to other people to decide who our leaders are going to be. And also we're looking to find ways in which this can be put in the public forum, that what this issue is of religious freedom. So we're looking at other things that we will do also.
Do you think this particular issue has legs to last through the political campaign? Because, a lot of people just vote the pocketbooks and the economy, but how do we keep this issue in front of them?
Well, we have to keep it in front of people. They will not last to November if we don't make an issue out of it. And a lot depends on how the Supreme Court's going to rule on the whole mandate issue as part of the HHS and the Obamacare in general. But we can't let this drop. We need to. This is very important.
Yeah. Of course, July 1st is our great American Independence Day. Was there any special way that you used to celebrate as a kid with fireworks and things like that?
Oh, I guess July the 4th is an interesting day, and hopefully you can remember what it's about. It's not just the holiday. It's close to being a holy day when we recognize the price of freedom, what was given in the early days of our country to gain that freedom, and how do we need to preserve it.
Sure, certainly a holy day for America.
Right.
Thanks so much. Have a happy 4th of July.
Okay.
And thanks for being with us today.
Very good.
And stay tuned, there's more currents ahead. When we return, a great day for golf to benefit the youth of the Brooklyn Diocese.
The money we raise today is going to go out to so many kids, probably 10, 12,000 kids that don't even know about where the money comes from, but it's just unbelievable to be able to help.
Finally, in case you didn't notice, the temperature has risen quite a bit in the last few days. So much, in fact, that you may just want to stay inside and let the air conditioning just keep you cool. Thursday, however, was a day to get outside and hit the greens for a good cause. The Diocese of Brooklyn hosted the 3rd annual CYO Golf Classic to benefit the athletic and spiritual needs of the youth of Brooklyn and Queens. Our Jim Mancari headed out to North Hills Country Club in Manhasset, Long Island, and found out that the sweltering heat did nothing to dampen the spirits of those taking part in this worthy cause.
At the North Hills Country Club in Manhasset, Long Island, the Brooklyn Queens CYO hosted its 3rd annual Golf Classic. Over 120 golfers from the Diocese of Brooklyn and beyond hit the links in support of the CYO sports programs held each year. Many special guests were in attendance at the outing, including 1969 New York Mets World Series champion Buddy Harrelson and 1987 New York Giants Super Bowl champion Billy Ard.
There were some forgettable shots, I can tell you that. There was quite a few forgettable shots. But, you know, we had a great group of guys, and we all we pitched in here and there, and we all did all right. As a kid growing up, I played baseball, basketball, football. I played, whenever there was a ball, I was there, whatever the event was. And I was very fortunate to have people in the community that supported, all the youth sports.
I was one of the first Little League teams in Hayward, California, where I grew up. My dad was the manager, and so I was involved.
The weather's a little hot. It could be a little cooler, but at least it's not rain. So, and golfers love to play, so they were all out here. So it's a great day so far. CYO reaches out to the young people, keeps them off the streets. It teaches them, teamwork, team spirit, that, we're not in this alone. And we have to work with people, we have to cooperate with people, and when we do that, it's a win-win situation. The key is to get an honoree. And I remember the guy that I used to work with when I was at Lady Mount Carmel, and Eddie Curran. He's a guy, very successful businessman, and works down on Wall Street. And he's always giving back. He helps out many charities, and he brought a lot of golfers, brought a lot of sponsorships, and this is going to be the biggest ever.
We are blessed with the love, the friendship, the caring, and the sharing of Eddie Mo Curran. Mo, come on up.
I had the pleasure of being part of the CYO in the 70s as a little kid running around Brooklyn. When I wasn't washing cars and driving a 14, I just want to say, and I owe that all to my mother.
It's an outstanding honor to be involved in your Catholic faith, to believe in something that's so real and so helpful to so many people. The money we raise today is going to go out to so many kids, probably 10, 12,000 kids that don't even know about where the money comes from, but it's just unbelievable to be able to help. Just like I said, keep kids safe in Brooklyn and Queens and off the streets, programs that the CYO run.
Today went very well. Of course, first it helps us financially, which we definitely need. But it also spreads the word. More and more people each year are getting to see who we are, and we're getting into the public eye, and people are noticing us more. So events like this are very important. Kids love it. So that's a come on already. So we don't even have to do anything. They already want to come to us. Then we show by example, by what we do, prayers, and the way we act around other people, and it spreads the word that way very easily.
They learn those values. They learn how to play together well. They learn team spirit. They learn how to put into practice, Christian values that they learn in church or in Catholic school or in religious education programs.
Through events like the Golf Classic, the CYO attempts to spread its mission of using youth sports as a vehicle of evangelization. For Currents, I'm Jim Mancari.
And a great report from our Jim Mancari. Well, that is all for tonight. Be sure to visit us online at currentsny.net. For all of us here at Currents, I'm Liz Faubliss. We leave you with more from Thursday night's opening mass of the Fortnight for Freedom observance in Baltimore. Thank you for watching and have a good night.